Chapter 1. The Price of Empty Hands. I'd always known my parents were desperate, but I didn't know desperation had a dollar amount until the night they sold me. The rain came down in sheets that evening, turning our cracked driveway into a river of mud and regret. I stood at the kitchen window, watching headlights cut through the darkness. Expensive headlights, the kind that belonged to cars I'd only seen in magazines. My mother's hands shook as she smoothed her hair. My father wouldn't look at me. Adriana. His voice cracked on my name. Come here. I didn't move. Something in the air had changed, gone heavy and metallic, like the taste of blood before you realize you've bitten your tongue. Now, Adriana. The knock came before I could respond, 3 sharp raps that seemed to echo through my chest. My mother flinched. My father straightened his shoulders in that way. Men do when they're trying to convince themselves they're still in control. But when he opened the door, I knew immediately he'd never been in control. Not of this. Not of anything. The man who stepped inside didn't belong in our small, suffocating house with its peeling wallpaper and flickering lights. He was taller than seemed reasonable, dressed in black that made the shadows cling to him like they knew him personally. Rain dripped from his coat onto our worn carpet. And he didn't apologize. Men like him never apologized. His eyes found mine across the room. Gray. Storm cloud gray, the kind that promised violence and somehow, impossibly, something else I couldn't name. Mr. and Mrs. Torres. His voice was low, controlled, the kind of quiet that made you lean in even when every instinct screamed to run. Where is she? Here. My mother's voice came out thin. She's right here. I felt his gaze move over me, not invasive, not the way other men looked, but assessing. Clinical. Like he was cataloging my worth in real time. How old? He asked. 24, my father said quickly, too quickly. And the medical reports. My stomach dropped. Medical reports. The phrase landed like a stone in dark water, rippling outward into understanding I didn't want to have. In the envelope, my mother whispered, everything you requested. He took the manila envelope my father offered, but his eyes never left me. She knows? The silence that followed was an answer in itself. You didn't tell her. Not a question. A statement edged with something that might have been contempt. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Unbelievable. We were waiting for... My mother started. Get out. The words were so soft I almost missed them. But my parents heard. They heard, and they moved toward the door like marionettes cut from strings, stumbling over each other in their haste. Wait. My voice surprised me, stronger than I felt. What's happening? My father paused at the threshold, rain soaking through his shirt. He looked old suddenly, ancient. I'm sorry, Mija. We had no choice. There's always a choice, the stranger said, still watching me. And then they were gone. The door clicked shut with a finality that reverberated through my bones. I stood alone with him in the dim kitchen, the fluorescent light buzzing overhead like a dying insect. Water pooled around his expensive shoes. He made no move toward me, but I felt trapped anyway, pinned by his presence and the terrible certainty that my life had just been divided into before and after. Adriana Torres. He said my name like he was tasting it, deciding if he liked the flavor. Do you know why you're barren? The word hit me like a slap. Barren. I'd heard the doctor say it 3 months ago, watched my then-boyfriend walk out without a word, felt my mother's disappointment settle over the house like ash. But hearing it from this stranger's mouth made it real in a way it hadn't been before. Endometriosis, I managed. Severe scarring. They said, I know what they said. He moved then, crossing to the window where I'd been standing, close enough that I could smell rain and something darker smoke, maybe. Or gunpowder. Your parents owed money to some very unpleasant people. I bought their debt. And me along with it. The words tasted bitter. No. He turned to face me, and in the flickering light, I saw his face clearly for the first time. Sharp angles, a scar cutting through his left eyebrow, and those impossible gray eyes that seemed to see straight through skin and bone to whatever truth I kept hidden. I didn't buy you, Adriana. I bought you away from them. There's a difference. I don't understand. You will. He pulled a business card from his pocket, black, expensive, with a single phone number embossed in silver. My name is Dante Moretti. I have 4 children who need a mother. You have a family that sees you as disposable. I'm offering you a choice they never gave you. My hand trembled as I took the card. The paper was thick, substantial, real. What kind of choice? His smile was barely there, a ghost of something that might have been human once. Come work for me. Be what my children need, and I promise you, no one will ever make you feel worthless for something you can't control again. He moved toward the door and panic seized my chest. Wait, what are you? What do you do? Dante Moretti paused, his hand on the doorknob, rain still hammering against the windows. When he looked back, his eyes held no warmth, no reassurance. I'm the man who owns this city, and as of tonight, I own your debt, your freedom, and your future. The question is, Adriana, what are you going to do about it? The door closed behind him. I stood alone in my parents' empty house, a stranger's card burning in my palm, and wondered if I'd just been rescued or damned. Chapter 2. The Kingdom of Broken Things. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? The house felt different in my parents' absence, emptier, but also cleaner somehow, like a wound finally exposed to air. By dawn, I'd made my decision, not because I wanted to, but because wanting had nothing to do with survival. The address on Dante Moretti's card led me to a part of the city I'd only seen from highway overpasses, where old money lived behind iron gates and manicured hedges, where the streets had names instead of numbers. I took 3 buses to get there, my single duffel bag pressed against my chest like armor. The estate appeared suddenly through morning mist, a sprawling Mediterranean-style mansion that seemed to go on forever. Terracotta roof tiles, cream-colored stone, windows that gleamed like dark eyes watching my approach. I pressed the intercom button at the gate with a shaking finger. Name. A woman's voice, clipped and professional. Adriana Torres. Mr. Moretti is expecting me. The pause that followed lasted 3 heartbeats too long. Then the gate swung open with a mechanical purr that sounded expensive. The driveway curved through gardens so perfect they looked painted, roses in full bloom despite the season. Marble fountains. Stone statues of angels with their wings spread wide, frozen mid-flight. Everything whispered the same message. You don't belong here. A woman met me at the front entrance. 60-something, steel-gray hair pulled into a bun so tight it looked painful. Her black dress was simple but immaculate, her posture military straight. Miss Torres, I'm Mrs. Chen, the house manager. Her eyes traveled over my worn jeans and thrift-store jacket with the efficiency of a scanner. Mr. Moretti is in a meeting. I'll show you to your quarters. Quarters, not room, quarters. I followed her through hallways that smelled of lemon polish and old wood, past oil paintings of stern-faced men who all seemed to share Dante's sharp features. The house was beautiful in the way museums were beautiful and touchable. Cold, meant to be observed from a distance. The children, Mrs. Thout, Chen said without looking back, are currently with their tutors. You'll meet them at lunch. Mr. Rope, Moretti has specific expectations regarding their care. What kind of expectations? She stopped at a heavy wooden door, her hand on the brass knob. That depends entirely on whether you survive the first week. The room she revealed was bigger than my parents' entire living room. A 4-poster bed dominated the space, draped in white linen. French doors opened onto a balcony overlooking the gardens. Everything was cream and gold and suffocatingly beautiful. Bathroom through there. Clothes in the wardrobe, Mr. Moretti had them brought in your size. She paused, and something almost human flickered across her face. Lunch is at noon sharp. The children don't tolerate lateness. Then she was gone, leaving me alone in a room that cost more than my parents' house. I sank onto the bed, the mattress so soft it felt like drowning. The wardrobe revealed rows of clothes with tags still attached. Simple but expensive, nothing like what I'd ever worn. cashmere sweaters, silk blouses, jeans that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He'd known I would come, known I had no choice. The thought should have made me angry. Instead, I just felt tired. At 11:58, I made my way downstairs following the sound of voices, high, young, undeniably childlike. The dining room appeared at the end of a long corridor, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. 4 pairs of eyes turned to assess me as I entered. The oldest was a girl, maybe 13, with Dante's dark hair and a face too serious for her age. She sat at the head of the table like a tiny queen, her posture perfect. "You're the new one." "I'm Adriana," I said, keeping my voice steady. "They don't usually last." This from a boy, perhaps 10, with the same gray eyes as his father but none of the control. His gaze held something wild, angry. 3 weeks was the record. "Luca, that's enough." The girl the queen gestured to an empty chair. "Sit, Papa said you'd be joining us." Papa, the word sounded strange applied to the man who'd stood in my kitchen last night promising ownership. The other 2 children were younger twin girls, maybe 6, identical down to the ribbons in their hair. They watched me with an unnerving synchronicity, neither speaking. I sat. A uniformed woman appeared with plates, chicken, vegetables, food that smelled better than anything I'd eaten in months. The children ate with practiced precision, their manners impeccable and somehow heartbreaking. "I'm Isabella," the oldest finally said. "That's Luca, and the twins are Sophia and Julia. They don't talk much. Trauma, the doctors say." The casual way she said it, trauma, made my chest ache. "How long has it been?" I asked quietly. "Since your mother died?" Isabella's fork didn't pause. 2 years, 3 months, 16 days. Not that we're counting. Luca's jaw tightened. One of the twins, Sophia or Julia, I couldn't tell, made a small sound in her throat. "She didn't die," Luca said, his voice hard. "She left. There's a difference. Luca, she left because she couldn't handle what Papa is. What we are." He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against marble. "And you'll leave too. They all do." He walked out, and no one tried to stop him. Isabella continued eating as if nothing had happened. "You'll have to excuse my brother. He has abandonment issues." "Isabella." The voice came from the doorway, low, controlled, unmistakable. Dante Moretti stood backlit by the corridor's light, still in his suit from last night, looking like he hadn't slept either. His eyes found mine across the room, and I felt that same assessment, that cataloging of worth. "How are you finding your new home, Adriana?" Home. The word felt like a test. I met his gaze and refused to look away. "I'm finding it complicated." Something flickered in his expression, surprise maybe, or the beginning of respect. "Good," he said softly. "Complicated means you're paying attention." Then he smiled, and it was the most dangerous thing I'd ever seen. Chapter 3. The Study of Shadows. Dante left before I could respond, but his presence lingered like smoke, visible in the way Isabella's shoulders relaxed slightly, audible in the twins' synchronized exhale. Even absent, he shaped the room. I spent the afternoon learning the geography of my new cage. Mrs. Chen appeared periodically with instructions delivered in that clipped, efficient voice, the children's schedules, medication times for Sophia's anxiety, Julia's fear of thunderstorms, Luca's therapist appointments every Tuesday. Isabella, apparently, needed nothing. She was self-sufficient in the way children become when the adults around them fail. By evening, I'd memorized 23 rules and broken none of them, a personal record. Dinner was quieter than lunch. Luca didn't appear. The twins ate in silence, their small hands moving in mirror image. Isabella asked me about books had I read Austen, Bronte, Shelley. I had, in the handful of community college classes I managed before money ran out. She nodded approval like a professor grading an acceptable essay. Dante's chair remained empty. "He eats in his study," Isabella explained, catching my glance. "Business. Always business." "What kind of business?" Her smile was small, knowing. "The kind people don't ask about." After the twins were bathed and tucked into beds they shared despite having separate rooms, after Isabella disappeared into her own quarters with a stack of books, I found myself wondering. The house breathed differently at night. The walls seemed closer, the shadows deeper. Moonlight turned the marble floors to pools of milk. I should have gone to my room, should have respected boundaries, kept my head down, survived. Instead, I followed the faint glow of light beneath the door at the end of the east wing. My knock was soft. No answer came, but I heard movement inside the creak of leather, the whisper of paper. I knocked again, harder. Come. The word was permission and warning both. Dante's study was all dark wood and leather, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves crammed with volumes in multiple languages. A fire burned in the stone fireplace despite the mild evening. He sat behind a massive desk, shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows, a tumbler of amber liquid catching the firelight. He didn't look up from the papers spread before him. You're supposed to be resting. I can't rest when I don't understand what I've walked into. Understanding is dangerous. He signed something with a fountain pen, the scratch of it loud in the quiet room, especially here. I moved closer despite myself, drawn by something I couldn't name. Your son thinks I'll leave. Isabella thinks I'll break. What do you think? That made him look up. His eyes found mine, and I saw exhaustion there. Bone deep, the kind that came from carrying weight too long. I think you're either very brave or very desperate. I haven't decided which. Can I be both? His lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. Sit. I took the leather chair across from his desk, sinking into it. The fire warmed my back. Rain had started outside, tapping against the windows like fingers seeking entrance. The twins don't speak, I said. Why? Dante was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drumming once against the desk. They witnessed their mother's departure. She was dramatic about it, screaming, breaking things, telling them their father was a monster. He took a slow sip of his drink. They haven't spoken since. The doctors say it's selective mutism triggered by trauma. And Luca's anger? He's 10. His mother abandoned him. His father runs an empire most people pretend doesn't exist. He has every right to be angry. And Isabella? Isabella is 14, going on 40. She became the parent when there wasn't one. His jaw tightened. She shouldn't have had to. I watched him in the firelight, this man who'd bought my debt, who offered me shelter in a house full of broken children, whose eyes held violence and something softer he tried to hide. Why me? I asked. There must be hundreds of women who could care for your children. Women with credentials, experience, who aren't barren. The word came gently, but it still stung. That's exactly why you, Adriana, everyone else who came here wanted something access to my world, my money, my name. They saw my children as obstacles or opportunities. But you? He leaned forward, elbows on the desk. You understand what it means to be deemed worthless for something beyond your control. You know how that feels? So I'm here because I'm damaged? You're here because you're a survivor. He stood, moving to the fireplace, his back to me. The flames cast his shadow long across the floor, and my children need someone who knows how to survive. Thunder rumbled outside. I thought of the twins in their shared bed, wondered if Julia was awake, frightened. What exactly do you do, Dante? The question slipped out before I could stop it. What business keeps you locked in here every night? He turned, and the firelight made his face into planes of light and shadow, beautiful and terrible. I'm the head of the Moretti family. We control imports, exports, real estate, entertainment, politics, every piece of this city that matters. He paused. We also control the pieces that don't appear in any ledger, the dark spaces between legal and illegal. I inherited an empire built on blood, and I've spent 15 years trying to make it legitimate while keeping my family alive. You're telling me you're a criminal? By some definitions. He moved closer, stopping just inside my personal space. A businessman? By others. The truth is probably somewhere in between. Does that frighten you? It should have. But looking up at him, at this man who came home to read bedtime stories and sign death warrants with the same hands, I found I couldn't lie. "No," I whispered. "It makes sense. You make sense." Something shifted in his expression, surprise, heat, danger. "You should go to bed, Adriana, before we both do something we can't take back." I stood on shaking legs, moved toward the door. His voice stopped me at the threshold. "Thank you," I turned. "For what? For staying, for trying, for not running yet." The yet hung between us like a promise or a threat. Chapter 4. The Wolves at the Gate. 3 days passed in strange domesticity. I learned that Sophia hummed instead of speaking, always the same melody I didn't recognize, that Julia drew pictures, dark, swirling things that Mrs. Chen collected with a worried frown, that Luca tested me constantly, leaving messes, breaking curfews, watching to see if I'd crack or call for his father. I didn't crack. I cleaned the messes. I waited up. I learned. Isabella watched all of it with those ancient eyes, reserving judgment. Dante remained a ghost in his own house, appearing at breakfast sometimes, disappearing into his study or leaving through the garage in armored cars that returned at strange hours. When our eyes met across rooms, something electric passed between us that I refused to name. Then Thursday came and everything changed. I was in the garden with the twins, watching them chase butterflies through the roses when Mrs. Chen appeared on the terrace. Her face was pale, tight. "Miss Torres, inside, now. Bring the children." The tone brooked no argument. I gathered Sophia and Julia quickly, their small hands gripping mine as we hurried toward the house. Behind us I heard the gates grinding shut, the mechanical sound ominous in the afternoon quiet. "What's happening?" I asked as we entered through the kitchen. "Lockdown protocol, Mr. Moritzi's orders." She ushered us toward the interior hallway, away from windows. "Where are the older two?" "Isabella's in the library. Luca's supposed to be with his tutor. He's not." A new voice, one of Dante's men, tall and broad-shouldered with a scar bisecting his cheek. "The boy slipped security 20 minutes ago. We have teams searching." My stomach dropped. "Slipped security? How does a 10-year-old? He's Dante Moretti's son. He knows every weakness in the system." The man's jaw tightened. "Mr. Turfay, Moretti is displeased." That felt like an understatement. I could feel the tension crackling through the house like static before a storm. "I'll find him," I heard myself say. The man, I thought his name was Marco, looked at me like I'd offered to fly. "Ma'am, you're not trained for." "He's a scared kid acting out, not an enemy combatant." "Where would he go?" Marco hesitated, then, "He has a spot, old gardener's cottage at the edge of the property. We're not supposed to know about it." "Then we don't know about it. I'll go, alone." I squeezed the twins' hands and knelt to their level. "Go with Mrs. Chen. I'll bring your brother back, I promise." Sophia hummed her melody, anxious. Julia pressed a drawing into my palmy, crude but recognizable, holding all 4 children's hands. My throat tightened. "I promise," I repeated. The cottage was half hidden by overgrown wisteria, its windows dark. I approached slowly, making noise so I wouldn't startle him. "Luca, it's Adriana. I'm coming in." No answer, but I heard movement inside. The door creaked open. The cottage was dusty, filled with old garden tools and broken pottery. Luca sat on a workbench in the corner, knees drawn up, trying to look defiant and failing. His eyes were red. "They sent you," his voice cracked. "Not Papa? Your father's dealing with whatever's happening. He sent his whole security team. I came on my own." I stayed near the door, giving him space. "Want to tell me why you ran?" I wasn't running away. I just needed. He trailed off, angry at himself for showing weakness. "To breathe?" I suggested. "To be somewhere you control?" His eyes snapped to mine, surprised. "I get it, Luca. This house is beautiful, but it's also a prison. Your father's trying to keep you safe, but safe feels a lot like trapped sometimes. You don't know anything about it." But the fight was draining from his voice. "I know your mom left. I know that hurts worse than anything. I know your dad's scary and powerful and probably terrible at talking about feelings. I moved closer, slow. I know you're 10 years old and you shouldn't have to be this angry, this scared. But here we are. Did he really buy you? The question came out small, like they're saying. He bought my freedom from people who would have hurt me. So yeah, technically. I sat on the workbench beside him, not touching. But he gave me a choice. Stay or go. That's more than most people get. Why'd you stay? I thought about it, really thought. Because running doesn't fix anything, it just changes the scenery. And maybe, I glanced at him, maybe because 4 kids who've been abandoned enough times deserve someone who won't. Luca was quiet for a long moment. Then, there are men watching the house. Bad men. Papa's enemies. That's why lockdown. My blood went cold. How do you know? I saw them yesterday. Black car 2 streets over. Same car today, different location. I was going to tell Papa, but he was already gone and his voice broke. I thought if I found their position, proved I could help. Oh, Luca. I pulled him into a hug before I could think better of it. He resisted for exactly 3 seconds before collapsing against me. 10 years old again, trembling. You brave, stupid boy. You don't prove yourself by dying. Papa does it every day. Your papa is trying to build a world where you don't have to. We sat like that until his breathing steadied. Then I stood, offering my hand. Come on, let's go tell your father what you saw. Together. He took my hand, and we walked back through the garden as the sun started setting. The house loomed ahead, all its lights blazing now, security visible on every corner. Dante stood on the terrace, still in his suit, absolutely motionless. When he saw us, something crossed his face relief so profound it looked like pain. Luca dropped my hand and ran to him. Dante caught his son, held him tight, his eyes closing briefly. When they opened again, they found mine across the garden. And in them, I saw something that terrified me more than threats or enemies or locked gates. I saw need. Chapter 5. The war room. Dante didn't let go of Luca for a full minute. When he finally did, his hands remained on his son's shoulders, grounding, possessive. Inside, now, all of you. His voice was controlled, but I heard the tremor beneath rage, barely leashed. We moved as a unit into the house. Marco appeared along with 3 other men I'd seen patrolling the grounds. The twins materialized from wherever Mrs. Chen had hidden them, attaching themselves to my legs like barnacles. Isabella descended the stairs, her face carefully blank. Dante led us to a room I hadn't seen before, through the kitchen, down a narrow hallway, behind a door that required both a key code and his fingerprint. The room beyond was all technology and maps, screens showing security feeds from every angle of the property. A command center. Of course he had a command center. Sit, he told the children, gesturing to a leather sofa along one wall. They obeyed instantly, even Luca. I moved to join them, but Dante's hand caught my wrist. Not you, you're with me. His fingers were warm against my pulse point. Luca, tell me exactly what you saw. Luca straightened, trying for brave. Black Escalade, tinted windows. Yesterday at 3:47 p.m. on Rosewood Drive, 2 blocks north. Today at 2:15 p.m. on Maple, east side. Same license plate. I memorized it. He rattled off the numbers without hesitation. One of Dante's men was already typing, pulling up traffic camera footage. Dante's thumb moved absently against my wrist, and I wondered if he realized he was still touching me. There. Marco pointed at a screen. The black SUV, exactly as Luca described. Dante's jaw turned to stone. Vittorio. The name fell like a guillotine blade. Who's Vittorio? I asked quietly. My uncle. My father's brother. Dante released my wrist, moving to the screens. He's been trying to take control of the family for years, thinks I've made us weak by going legitimate. Has he tried anything before? 3 assassination attempts in the last 5 years. I'm still here, so clearly he's bad at it. The casual way he said it, assassination attempts, made my knees weak. But he's never surveilled my home, never gotten this close to my children. Isabella's face had gone pale. Sophia's humming grew higher, anxious. Julia pressed against my side, her small body trembling. "What do we do?" I asked, because someone had to. Dante turned, and his eyes were winter itself, cold, lethal, absolute. "You stay here with them. This room is a panic room. Reinforced steel, independent air supply, enough provisions for 2 weeks. Marco stays with you. No one opens this door except me." "Where are you going?" "To remind my uncle why people fear the Moretti name." The promise of violence in his voice should have repulsed me. Instead, something dark and primal in my chest whispered, "Good. Papa, no." Isabella stood, her composure cracking. "Send someone else. Stay with us, please." "Bella, you always leave." Her voice broke. Years of controlled emotion spilling out. "Every time there's danger, you leave and we wait. And we don't know if you're coming back, and I can't do this anymore." Dante crossed to her in 3 strides, cupping her face in his hands. "I will always come back. Always. Do you understand me?" "You can't promise that." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Mama promised too." The words hit him like bullets. I saw him flinch, saw something crack in that carefully maintained control. "Your mother left because she was scared. I leave because I'm fighting to keep you safe. That's the difference, Tesoro. I don't run from you. I run toward the threats before they reach you." He kissed her forehead, then moved to each child in turn, Luca, the twins, brief touches that held entire conversations. When he reached me, his hand cupped my cheek with unexpected gentleness. "Keep them safe, Adriana. I will." "I know." His thumb brushed my cheekbone. "You're stronger than you think, than they ever let you believe." Then he was moving, all business again, issuing orders to his men in rapid Italian. The room emptied until only Marco remained, taking position by the door with a gun. I tried not to look at. The heavy door sealed with a hydraulic hiss. Silence fell, broken only by Sophia's humming and the quiet hum of electronics. "He'll be okay," I said, not knowing if I believed it. "Your father knows what he's doing. He always knows what he's doing." Isabella wiped her eyes with sharp, angry gestures. "That doesn't mean it's safe. That doesn't mean he'll come back." I gathered the children close, all 4 of them. Even Isabella, who was too old for it. Even Luca, who pretended not to need it. We sat on that leather sofa in that underground room, and I told them stories. Fairy tales at first, then true stories from my own childhood, small moments of joy that had nothing to do with money or power or fear. Julia fell asleep against my shoulder. Sophia's humming softened to something almost peaceful. Luca's anger melted into exhaustion, his head heavy against my side. Isabella stayed awake, vigilant, but she didn't pull away when I stroked her hair. Hours passed, 6, maybe 7. Marco checked his phone periodically, his face giving nothing away. Then finally, a knock. 3 sharp raps. Marco moved to the intercom. "Code, to Mesta." Dante's voice, rough with fatigue but alive. "Alive." The door opened. Dante stood there, his suit jacket gone, his white shirt spattered with something dark I refused to identify. His knuckles were split, bleeding, but his eyes were clear, focused, finding his children first, then me. "It's done," he said quietly. "Vittorio won't be a problem anymore." I didn't ask what done meant. Some questions were better left unspoken. The twins rushed to him. He knelt, gathering them close despite the blood, despite everything. Luca and Isabella followed, creating a knot of family I had no right to be part of. But when Dante looked up, his eyes found mine, and he reached out his hand. I took it. Chapter 6. The Weight of Want. The children eventually surrendered to sleep, one by one. Mrs. Chan appeared like a ghost to shepherd them to their rooms, her face carefully neutral when she saw Dante's bloodied state. He didn't explain. She didn't ask. I should have gone to my room too. Should have left him to whatever aftermath required his attention. But when he moved toward his study, I followed. He didn't tell me to leave. The fire had burned down to embers. Dante crossed to the bar cart, poured 2 fingers of whiskey, then paused and poured a second glass. He offered it to me without a word. I took it. The liquor burned going down, warmth spreading through my chest. "Thank you," he said finally, his back to me as he stared into the dying fire. "For keeping them calm, for keeping them safe. That's what you hired me for. No." He turned, and the firelight caught the harsh planes of his face, the exhaustion carved into every line. "I hired you to care for them. What you did tonight, that was something else." "What was it?" He moved closer, each step deliberate. "It was staying when you could have hidden. It was holding them when you had every right to be terrified yourself. It was—" He stopped just inside my space, close enough that I could smell copper and smoke and something underneath that was purely him. It was what a mother would do. The word landed between us, heavy with implications. "I'm not their mother, Dante. No, you're not." His hand rose, almost touching my face, then dropped. "But you could be, if you stayed, if you chose this." "Chose what? This house? This life? You?" The last word slipped out unbidden. His eyes darkened. "All of it," he said quietly. "The children who need you. The danger that comes with my name. Me." He stepped back, creating distance that felt like abandonment. "But I won't ask that of you. You've already given more than I had any right to expect. I should have let him retreat, should have taken the out he was offering. Instead, I closed the distance between us, my hand finding his chest, feeling his heart thunder beneath my palm. What happened tonight? With your uncle? I can't tell you that. Can't or won't." His hand covered mine, holding it against his heartbeat. "Both. The less you know, the safer you are. I'm living in your house, caring for your children, sitting in your panic room while you wage war. I think safety left the building days ago." A muscle jumped in his jaw. "Adriana, did you kill him?" The question came out steadier than I felt. Dante's eyes held mine, unflinching. Would it matter if I said yes? I thought about it, really thought. About Isabella's tears, about the twins' nightmares, about Luca's desperate need to prove himself, about a man who read bedtime stories with the same hands that signed death warrants. "No," I whispered, "not if he was threatening your children." Something shifted in his expression, surprise, relief, hunger. His free hand rose to cup my face, thumb tracing my cheekbone with devastating gentleness. "You shouldn't be okay with this, with me. I know. You should run. Take money, disappear, start over somewhere I can't find you. Is that what you want?" His laugh was bitter, broken. "What I want has nothing to do with what's right for you." But his thumb continued its path, down to my jaw, my throat, feeling my pulse race beneath his touch. "I'm selfish, Adriana. Dangerous. I've killed men for less than looking at what's mine. Am I yours?" The question hung in the air like smoke. His eyes blazed. "You've been mine since the moment you didn't run, since you stood in that kitchen with your parents' betrayal fresh and looked me in the eye without fear." His voice dropped to gravel. "Since you held my children like they were worth protecting, since you walked into that cottage alone for Luca, since you stayed in that panic room and told them stories while I painted my hands red. Yes, Adriana, you're mine. The question is, do you want to be?" My heart hammered against my ribs. Every rational thought screamed to step back, to think, to not make decisions in the dark with whiskey in my blood and his touch burning through my skin. But when had rational ever mattered? I rose on my toes, closing the final distance, my lips a breath from his. "Ask me again when you're not covered in blood and exhausted. When we're both thinking clearly, and if the answer's still the same." I let the sentence hang unfinished, possibility hovering between us. For a moment, I thought he'd close the distance anyway. Take what we both wanted with the same ruthless efficiency he applied to everything else. But then he stepped back, creating space that felt like loss. "You're right." His voice was rough, strained. "Go to bed, Adriana, before I forget how to be honorable." I set my glass down on his desk, my hands surprisingly steady. At the door, I paused. Dante? Yes? Clean yourself up. Your children shouldn't see you like this in the morning. His laugh was soft, surprised. Yes, ma'am. I climbed the stairs to my room, my skin still burning where he'd touched me, my heart doing complicated things in my chest. Through my window, I could see the gardens lit by moonlight, the high walls that kept the world out and us in. I thought about his question, about choosing this life, these children, him, about how the answer scared me less than it should. In the morning, I found a single white rose on my breakfast plate. No note attached. Across the table, Dante met my eyes over his coffee cup, cleaned and composed, every trace of last night's violence erased. Except for his split knuckles, and the heat in his gaze that promised this was far from over. Chapter 7. The glass breaking. For 3 days, we existed in careful orbit close enough to feel the pull, distant enough to maintain the illusion of control. Dante was home more. He worked from his study, appeared at meals, helped Luca with homework in the evenings. The children bloomed under his attention, like flowers finally getting sunlight. Even Isabella's armor cracked, letting through glimpses of the girl beneath. I tried to ignore how my breath caught when he entered a room, how his eyes followed me when he thought I wasn't looking, how the air between us felt charged, dangerous, inevitable. Then Tuesday came and the glass shattered. It started with a phone call during lunch. Dante's face went cold, his knuckles white around his phone. He spoke in rapid Italian, his voice dropping to that lethal quiet that meant someone was about to have a very bad day. He ended the call and stood. I have to go. Papa, you promised. Luca started. I know. I'll be back for dinner. Marco will be here. He kissed the tops of the twins' heads, squeezed Isabella's shoulder. His eyes found mine. Keep them inside today. Don't open the gates for anyone. Dante, what's wrong? Nothing I can't handle. But his jaw was tight, his movements sharp. He was lying. He left through the garage. I heard the armored Mercedes roar to life, then fade into distance. The afternoon stretched into evening. 6 o'clock came and went. No Dante. 7 o'clock. The children grew quiet, tense. 8 o'clock. Isabella stopped pretending to read. Luca paced like a caged animal. The twins held hands, humming in eerie harmony. At 8:47, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You should leave now, before you become collateral damage. A friend. My blood turned to ice. I showed Marco, who immediately made calls, his face grim. More security appeared. Men with guns taking positions throughout the house. What's happening? I demanded. Vittorio's brother. Salvatore, he's making a move. Marco's hand rested on his weapon. Mr. Mecco. Moretti walked into a trap. The world tilted. Where is he? Downtown. The warehouse district. He's got men with him, but what? Marco's silence was answer enough. Isabella appeared in the doorway, her face chalk white. They're going to kill him. Just like they tried before. Just like, her voice broke. I pulled her close, but my mind was racing. Dante somewhere in the dark, outnumbered, possibly bleeding. These children waiting, terrified, for another parent to disappear. No, not again. Not on my watch. Marco, I need a car. Ma'am, I can't. Not asking permission, those children have lost enough. If there's even a chance I can help, I'm taking it. I turned to Isabella. Stay with your siblings. Lock yourselves in the panic room if anything happens. Understand? You can't go. But her eyes held desperate hope. You're not trained for. I'm not going to fight. I'm going to give your father one more reason to come home alive. I squeezed her hand. Trust me. Marco made a decision. Car's in the garage, but I'm driving and you follow my orders. Clear? Crystal. The warehouse district was exactly as bleak as it sounded. Abandoned buildings, broken streetlights, shadows deep enough to hide armies. Marco parked 2 blocks away, his face grim. Wait here, I'll scout. Gunfire erupted, sharp cracks echoing off concrete. Marco swore, already moving. I followed before he could stop me, staying low, my heart in my throat. The warehouse ahead had shattered windows, light spilling from inside. More gunshots, shouting in Italian, the metallic smell of blood on the wind. Marco held up a hand, signaling stop. Through a broken window, I saw them. Dante, backed against a wall, blood streaming from his temple. 3 of his men down. 6 no, 7 of Salvatore surrounding them, and Salvatore himself, older than Dante, crueler, holding a gun casually pointed at Dante's chest. "You made us weak," Salvatore was saying, his voice carrying. "Our father would be ashamed, but don't worry, nephew. I'll raise your children properly, teach them what real power looks like." Dante's laugh was dark, feral. "You'll never touch my children. You won't be alive to stop me." I moved before thinking, stepping into the doorway, hands raised. Every gun swung toward me. "Don't shoot!" My voice rang out, steadier than I felt. "I'm unarmed. I'm just looking for Dante Moretti." Dante's eyes went wide, then furious. "Adriana, what the hell, ah?" Salvatore's smile was poison. "The new nanny. How convenient." He gestured, and one of his men grabbed me, rough hands yanking me forward. Now we have leverage. The gun pressed against my temple was cold. I focused on Dante's eyes, gray storm clouds, lightning and thunder, and barely contained violence. "Let her go, Salvatore. She has nothing to do with this." "Oh, I disagree. She has everything to do with this." Salvatore's breath was hot against my ear. "You care about her. I can see it, which means she's useful." Dante's control cracked. "I swear to God if you hurt her." "You'll what? You're outgunned, outmanned, and bleeding. You've already lost." Salvatore cocked his gun. "Any last words for your nanny before I drove my elbow back hard, just like my brother taught me years ago. Connected with ribs. The grip on me loosened for one crucial second. I dropped. Dante moved like death itself, fast, brutal, efficient. His gun sang. Bodies fell. The warehouse erupted into chaos. Hands grabbed me, dragging me behind cover. Marco, returning fire. The world was noise and smoke and fear. Then silence. Heavy. Ringing silence. "Clear," someone shouted. I looked up. Dante stood over Salvatore's body, his gun still raised, his chest heaving. Blood-soaked, his shirt his or theirs. I couldn't tell. His eyes found mine across the carnage. And I saw, for the first time, what he really was. Not a businessman. Not a father. A killer. Chapter 8. The Truth in Blood. The drive back was silent except for the sound of Dante's labored breathing. Marco drove while I pressed gauze against the gash on Dante's side, deep, angry, bleeding too much. His shirt was ruined, dark with blood that was definitely his. "Hospital," I said. "No," his voice was rough. "Home. Dr. Russo will come." "Dante, you need—" I said no. His hand covered mine, warm and slick. Hospitals ask questions. Questions lead to police. Police complicate things. "You're bleeding out. I've bled worse." The casual way he said it made my stomach turn. At the house, chaos. Mrs. Jen appeared with a medical bag before we'd even cleared the door. Isabella stood on the stairs, her face bloodless, the twins pressed against her legs. Luca's eyes were too wide, too knowing. "Children, to bed, now." Mrs. Chen's voice cut through the tension. "But Papa," Luca started, "is fine. Miss Torres will care for him. Go." Isabella herded them upstairs, but not before shooting me a look that said, "Save him or else." Dante leaned heavily on me as we made our way to his study. He collapsed onto the leather sofa, his face gray beneath the blood and grime. Mrs. Chen worked efficiently, cutting away his shirt, revealing a muscled torso marred by scars, old wounds, old wars. "Bullet-grazed ribs," she announced, clinical. "Deep laceration, but no organ damage. He'll live." She glanced at me. "Can you handle stitches?" "I what? Dr. Russo is 40 minutes away. The bleeding needs to stop now. Can you do it or not?" I looked at Dante. His eyes were half closed, but his jaw was set. Stubborn, refusing to show weakness even now. "Talk me through it," I said. Mrs. Chen did. Her hands guided mine, threading the needle, pinching the wound closed, pushing through skin that resisted. Dante didn't make a sound, but his hand found my thigh, gripping hard enough to bruise. 10 stitches. Each one a small violence, a small salvation. When I tied off the last one, Mrs. donned. Chen nodded approval. "Clean 'em up. I'll bring water and bandages." She left, taking her medical bag and her silence. Alone, I wet a cloth and began cleaning blood from Dante's skin. His eyes tracked my movements. "You shouldn't have come," he said quietly. "I know. You could have been killed." "I know that too." "Then why?" His hand caught my wrist, stilling my movements. "Why risk yourself for me?" I met his gaze, refusing to look away. "Because your children can't lose you. Because they've lost enough. Because—" I stopped, the truth lodging in my throat. "Because what, Adriana?" "Because the thought of you dying made me feel like I was drowning." His eyes closed. When they opened again, something had shifted. The walls he kept so carefully maintained had cracked, showing the man beneath. "I killed 4 men tonight. Shot them without hesitation, without mercy." His voice was raw. "And I'd do it again. I'd kill 100 more to keep my family safe. Does that horrify you?" I thought about the question. Really thought. About the man who'd bought my freedom, who read bedtime stories and signed death warrants, who bled on his own sofa rather than risk his children's safety. "No," I whispered. "It should, but it doesn't. What does that make you?" "Yours." The word escaped before I could stop it. "It makes me yours." Something broke in him. His hand slid into my hair, pulling me down until our foreheads touched. His breath was ragged, pained. "You scare me," he confessed. "You scare me more than any enemy, any bullet, any threat, because losing you would destroy me in ways dying never could. Then don't lose me." "Adriana, I'm choosing this." "You asked me to choose, and I am. The children, the danger, the life, you, all of it. I choose it." His lips found mine desperate, hungry, tasting of blood and smoke and need. I kissed him back, pouring everything I couldn't say into the press of mouth against mouth. His good arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me closer despite his injuries, despite everything. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "I don't deserve you," he said against my lips. "Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway." His laugh was soft, pained, beautiful. Mrs. Chen returned with water and supplies, her face carefully neutral as she found us tangled together. She set everything down without comment and left again. I finished cleaning him, then wrapped bandages around his ribs with shaking hands. He watched me the entire time, his eyes heavy-lidded but burning. "Stay," he said when I moved to leave. "Tonight. Just stay." I shouldn't have. He needed rest. I needed distance to process what I'd seen, what I'd felt, what I'd chosen. But I stayed. I curled beside him on that oversized sofa, careful of his injuries, his arm heavy across my waist. His heartbeat was steady beneath my ear live. "Here, mine." "Adriana?" Thank you. For coming for me. For choosing this." His lips pressed against my hair. "For not running when you saw what I really am." "What you really are," I said quietly, "is a father who loves his children enough to bleed for them. Everything else is just circumstances." His chest rose and fell beneath my cheek. "Circumstances that include murder and violence and darkness. Then I guess I'm comfortable in the dark." He was quiet for so long I thought he'd fallen asleep. "Then I love you." The words hit like lightning. Simple, devastating, true. I tilted my head up, finding his eyes in the firelight. "Say it again when you're not half dead and high on adrenaline." "I love you," he repeated, steady and certain. "I'll say it every day until you believe it." "Ask me again," I whispered. "If I want to be yours." "Do you want to be mine, Adriana?" Completely? Yes. He kissed me again, softer this time. A promise, a claiming, a beginning. Outside, dawn was breaking. Inside, something new was born. Chapter 9. The Claiming. I woke to sunlight streaming through the study windows and Dante's eyes on my face. He looked better, color returned to his skin, the gray pallor of blood loss faded. His hand rested on my hip, possessive even in rest. "How long have you been awake?" I asked, my voice rough with sleep. "An hour. Maybe more." His thumb traced slow circles against my hip bone. "Watching you, wondering if last night was real or fever dream. Your fever wasn't that high. High enough to hallucinate you saying yes, you choosing this, me." His eyes searched mine. "Tell me it was real, Adriana." I shifted closer, mindful of his stitches. It was real. I meant every word. His exhale was relief incarnate. Then his hand slid up my side, slow and deliberate, a question in the touch. I answered by closing the distance between us, my lips finding his. The kiss was different and daylightless, desperate, more certain. His hand tangled in my hair, angling my head to deepen it. I gasped against his mouth, and he swallowed the sound like sustenance. "The children," I managed, "are with Mrs. Chen. She knows not to disturb us." His lips moved to my jaw, my throat, finding the place where my pulse hammered. "Say no if you want this to stop, but say it now, because in another minute, I won't be able to." I should have said no, should have thought about propriety, about my role here, about the fact that he was injured and we were in his study where anyone could walk in. Instead, I arched into his touch. "Don't stop." What happened next was inevitability, hands finding skin, breaths mixing, the world narrowing to just this, his weight against me, his mouth everywhere, the way he whispered my name like a prayer and a curse combined. He was careful with his injuries, but merciless in everything else, mapping my body with a thoroughness that left me shaking. When he finally claimed me completely, his eyes never left mine, gray storm meeting whatever courage I had left, seeing me, knowing me, choosing me. It was terrifying. It was perfect. Afterward, we lay tangled together on the sofa, my head on his chest, his fingers trailing through my hair. His heartbeat was steady beneath my ear, proof of survival, proof of life. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly, "about why I needed you. Why it had to be you." I stilled, listening. When my wife left, she didn't just abandon us. She went to the authorities, told them everything, names, operations, locations. She tried to destroy the family to hurt me. His voice was carefully controlled. "The only reason I'm not in prison is because I have people everywhere. Judges, politicians, police. But the children," he paused, "they became targets. Not just from enemies like Salvatore, but from law enforcement who thought they could use them as leverage." My stomach turned. That's why the panic room, the security. That's why everything, every nanny, every tutor, every person who came near them was vetted by a team. Most failed. The ones who passed. He laughed bitterly. They lasted weeks before the danger scared them off. Or they started seeing opportunities, blackmail, selling information, using the children for their own gain. But you hired me anyway. Someone whose background you bought, who came from nothing. Because you came from nothing. Because you'd been used, discarded, deemed worthless. His arms tightened around me. I gambled that someone who knew what it meant to be thrown away would never do it to someone else, especially not to children. "You were testing me, from the beginning." Yes. No apology in his voice. "The lockdown, Luca running, last night all tests. Ways to see if you'd break, if you'd run, if you'd choose yourself over them." I should have been angry, should have felt manipulated, used. But looking back, I understood. Every moment had been a question. Will you stay? Will you fight? Will you choose us? And I had, every single time. "What if I'd failed?" I asked. "Then I would have paid you handsomely and sent you somewhere safe." Far from me. Far from this life. His lips brushed my hair. But you didn't fail. You chose them. You chose me, even knowing what I am, what I do, the darkness I carry. I chose you because of it, not despite it. I tilted my head to look at him. You're not a good man, Dante. No, I'm not. But you're a good father, and right now, that's what matters. His eyes closed briefly. When they opened, they held something raw, vulnerable. I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret this choice. That's a long time. I'm counting on it. He shifted, wincing slightly from his stitches. There's something else, something I need to ask. Anxiety flickered through me. What? He reached for his jacket, draped over the back of the sofa, and pulled something from the inner pocket. A small velvet box. My heart stopped. I'm doing this backward, he said, opening the box to reveal a ring, simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught the light. I should have courted you properly, taken you to dinner, bought you flowers, asked permission. But nothing about us has been proper, and I'm too selfish to wait. Dante, marry me, Adriana, not because you have to, not because I bought your debt, but because you choose this. Choose us. Choose to be their mother and my wife and the thing I fight to come home to every night. His voice dropped. Choose to be my family. Tears blurred my vision. You're asking me to marry into the Mafia. To become part of this world permanently. To be a target. Yes, to raise 4 children who've been traumatized and betrayed. Yes, to love a man who kills without mercy and rules through fear. Yes, he cupped my face. I'm asking you to choose the hardest life imaginable, and I have no right to ask, but I'm asking anyway. I looked at the ring, at his face, at the future he was offering, dangerous, dark, and utterly, impossibly mine. Yes, I whispered. Yes to all of it. He slid the ring onto my finger, and it fit perfectly. Of course it did. He planned this. Known I would say yes before I did. I love you, he said against my lips. I love you too. Chapter 10. The House of Forever. We told the children at breakfast. I expected resistance, questions, maybe even anger. Instead, what I got was silence, the kind that preceded either celebration or catastrophe. Isabella stared at the ring on my finger, her face unreadable. Luca's fork paused halfway to his mouth. The twins looked at each other, then at me, their synchronized assessment unnerving as always. Dante's hand found mine under the table. Steady. Grounding. We wanted you to hear it from us, he said quietly. Adriana has agreed to marry me. To become part of this family. Permanently. More silence. Then Sophia did something she hadn't done in 2 years. She spoke. Mama? The word was small, hesitant, directed at me. My throat closed. Beside me, Dante went absolutely still. Julia's hand found her sister's, and she whispered the word too. Mama. The tears came before I could stop them. I knelt beside their chairs, gathering both girls into my arms. They clung to me, small and warm and trusting in a way that broke something open in my chest. Yes, I managed. If you want me to be. I'm here. I'm staying. Promise? Sophia's voice was barely audible against my shoulder. I promise. I'm not going anywhere. Luca stood abruptly, his chair scraping. For a terrible moment, I thought he'd run again. Instead, he moved to where I knelt and wrapped his arms around all 3 of us, fierce and desperate. Don't break it, he said, his voice cracking. Don't promise and then leave. Please. I won't. I swear on everything I am, Luca. I'm yours. All of yours. Only Isabella remained at the table, watching with those ancient eyes. Dante moved to her, crouching beside her chair. Bella, talk to me. She's not her. Isabella's voice was tight. She's not Mama, and we shouldn't pretend she is. You're right. She's not. Dante's hand covered hers. Your mother left because she couldn't handle this life. Adriana is choosing it. Choosing you. That's the difference. What if she changes her mind? What if it gets too hard and then I'll fight to make her stay, but I don't think I'll have to. He glanced at me and his eyes held certainty. She's already stayed through worse. She's already proven what she is. Isabella's composure finally cracked. I wanted to hate her. I wanted her to be like the others so I could stay angry, stay safe. But Her voice broke. She's good, and I'm scared because good things always leave. I extracted myself from the tangle of younger children and moved to her. Isabella, look at me. She did, tears spilling down her cheeks. I'm not good. I'm messy and damaged, and I have no idea what I'm doing half the time. I took her hands, but I'm stubborn and loyal and too stupid to quit when things get hard. So yeah, I'm scared too, terrified. But I'm not leaving. You're stuck with me. Promise? On my life. She studied my face for a long moment, then she stood and hugged me brief. Fierce, 14 years old and trying so hard to be strong. Okay, she whispered. Okay. The wedding happened 3 weeks later, small, private, in the garden beneath the angel statues. A judge who owed Dante favors. Marco and Mrs. Chen as witnesses. The children in their finest clothes, the twins holding flowers, Luca trying not to cry, Isabella recording everything on her phone. I wore cream silk that Mrs. Preby Chen had somehow procured in 48 hours. No veil, no train, just simplicity and certainty. Dante wore black, as always, but his eyes when he saw me, storm clouds breaking into something that might have been peace. The vows were traditional, but when Dante said, "Until death do us part," I felt the weight of what that meant in his world. Death was a constant companion, a shadow that followed him through every door. I said the words anyway, meant them anyway. When he kissed me, the children cheered, even Isabella, who'd spent the morning pretending she wasn't excited. The reception was just us family dinner in the formal dining room, laughter that had been absent too long, the twins chattering in their newly rediscovered voices about everything and nothing. Luca told terrible jokes. Isabella smiled without reservation. Dante held my hand through every course, his thumb tracing the wedding band he'd slid onto my finger. Simple gold, unbreakable. After the children were in bed, we stood on the terrace overlooking the gardens. Music drifted from somewhere inside. Mrs. Chen had put on jazz, something soft and old. "Dance with me," Dante said, offering his hand. "There's no one to see." "I want to see. I want to remember this. You, me, the beginning of forever." We swayed in the moonlight, my head against his chest, his arms solid around me. The scars beneath his shirt were reminders of how close I'd come to losing this before it even began. "Regrets?" he asked quietly. "Thousands, but none about this." His laugh rumbled through his chest. "What kind of regrets? That I didn't meet you sooner? That my parents sold me instead of loved me? That the world is cruel enough that men like you have to exist?" I pulled back to look at him. "But not this. Never this. I'll spend every day making sure you never do regret it." "I know." We stood like that for a long time, wrapped in each other, and the night, and the strange, impossible choice that had brought us here. In the distance, the city glittered his kingdom, his responsibility, his burden. But here, in this garden, with his arms around me and his children sleeping safe inside, he was just a man, scarred and dangerous and mine. "Take me to bed, husband," I whispered. His smile was slow, devastating. "Yes, wife." 3 months later, Sophia sang while she drew real songs now, not just humming. Julia's pictures had color in them, bright and hopeful. Luca brought home a report card with straight A's and didn't hide it. Isabella called me Mom when she thought I wasn't listening. Dante still left for meetings that ended in blood. Still ruled his empire with ruthless efficiency. Still came home with shadows in his eyes. But now, when he came home, I was there. We were there. His family, chosen and claimed and unbreakable. I'd been sold as worthless, barren, disposable. But here, in this house of broken things and dangerous men, I'd found something my parents never understood. I'd found my worth, and I'd found my home.